So I think we can probably start at like 3:03, just let people filter in. Is that good with you, Shamak?
Yep, works with me.
Cool. Do we want to start up or do we want to keep waiting? Do we want to start up? All right. So this presentation is on sustainability for both FIRST teams and program continuity. So we can start with some introductions.
So, hi everyone, my name is Shyam Kodifanti. Um, yeah, I'm also the Vice President of Innovation for GeorgiaFIRST CTSO.
And my name is Celeste Roselli. I'm the Georgia CTSO Vice President of Sustainability, and I am lead for Team 2415. So, first off, on this presentation, there's a lot of presentations at Georgia First Symposium on team sustainability, and we'll get into that in this presentation. But what I really wanted to focus on was why program sustainability. The nature of FIRST is that there are yearly graduating members, and this means that there's a need for sustainable influx of interested students. Um, Teams obviously have students graduating each year. You need to make sure that people are aware of FIRST and have enough interest and passion for STEM and robotics that they're coming in and filling that need for members on your team. And younger students often have less experience, which makes them more hesitant to get involved. It starts this cycle. And so when you have your really strong, passionate leads with a lot of technical experience end up graduating, those younger students often feel hesitant about filling in those roles, having enough experience or technical knowledge to do so. And so in FIRST, there are programs such as FIRST Lego League and FIRST Tech Challenge that are targeted towards younger students in order to get them interested and get them experience with robotics before entering in FIRST robotics competition. And so we're going to talk about how to best make use of that pipeline and how to have FRC teams approach those FLL and FTC students, mentor and volunteer in order to kind of keep that FIRST pipeline going. So, first up, just a quick kind of debrief on FIRST beyond FRC. There's FTC, FIRST Tech Challenge, and FLL of FIRST Lego League. And so, FTC has teams of up to 15 team members in grades 7 through 12, whereas FLL isn't based on grades, it's between ages 4 and 16, and there's three levels under that. Discover, which is non competitive, and that's ages 4 through 6. Explore, which is more competitive between ages 6 through 10, and then challenge, which is the most competitive level. You'll end up having tournaments and different levels of tournaments, eventually going to a state competition and even worlds. And that's for ages 9 through 16. So the first way that we have to get involved with, and that should say, FTC competitions. The first way to get involved with younger students is by hosting competitions. Now, unlike FRC's more centralized competition schedules, FTC is split up into separate leagues. And so there's a greater ability to independently host FTC events through your school or team. And because of that ability to independently host, you also have a lot more control over how big or small your event will be, how many teams you're going to invite, and how advanced the competition should be. And so there's three main events that you can host. League Meet, which are shorter competitions with no judging. It's mostly just kind of ways for students to practice. League tournaments, which are full day competitions with all judging events and elimination matches. And then you have more traditional events. So teams run their robots in the 2x2 alliance matches on a field per the traditional version of the game manual. And this will include official referees and judges. And so you, as a FRC mentor, coach, or a member of your team, can work to host these FTC competitions with the support of your team by utilizing funding and members of your team for volunteers, as well as any connections you have. A great way to start hosting an FTC competition is by reaching out to if your school district or any connecting schools has an FTC team and utilize those connections. And you can find more information about hosting these competitions specifically on the Georgia First website for FTC. Now, FLO competitions are a little different. FLO competitions are run through Georgia Tech, which is the affiliate partner for the First LEGO League Challenge competition throughout Georgia. And so, in order to host an FLO competition, you have to reach out directly through Georgia Tech during the spring or summer because the FLO game comes out in August and competitions will be hosted throughout the fall. And so, instead of having separate leagues, there's a bit more of a centralized tournament schedule. There are regional tournaments, which hosts can elect to have. And so those regional tournaments can have 12, 24, or 36 teams. Basically, each tournament will have 12, but you can often have multiple tournaments kind of happening at the same place, run by the same hosts. These are often done at schools, but can also be done at community centers or other locations. From those regional tournaments, around the top 30% of rankings at the end of those tournaments will go to super regional tournaments, which are a little less spread out, and they're a little more spread out, attract more people from various areas. And again, the top 30% of those competitions end up going to the first LEGO League State Championship. Um, and so, in order to host an FLO competition, similar process to FTC, you have to reach out to Georgia Tech, but utilizing members of your FRC team or any teams that you know or have connections with as volunteers for this event. And we'll get into all the volunteer capabilities of high school members of FRC teams. It's actually a lot easier to host FLO competitions because more of the roles can be run by teenagers, whereas FTC often requires more adults and also more supplies and a bit more of a financial barrier in order to access both to start a team and to run a competition. So for mentoring teams, if your school or district has an FLL or FTC team, this provides an opportunity for your FRC students to mentor. And so this allows FRC students, older high school students, to help catalyze the interest in STEM and FIRST robotics competition, robotics in general, towards younger generations of students. And so by helping younger students when they get stuck, because we know that robotics is often a process that involves a lot of failure and a lot of evolution and iteration of ideas and skills. Having your high school more experienced members help out with younger kids can encourage continuation of robotics throughout high school. And so the overall goal of this, of hosting competitions, of mentoring teams, of starting teams, which we'll get into a bit later, is to get that interest and excitement about robotics from a younger age. I started first LEGO League when I was in fifth grade, and we had members of the FRC team I'm currently on, 2415, helping as mentors when I was in fifth grade. And I just remember whenever I got stuck with a problem, whenever I felt overwhelmed, because especially at a young age, science and engineering and robotics can feel very overwhelming. The fact that I had these older students able to kind of help push me along really allowed me to get excited about robotics. And then I kept doing it throughout middle school and now at the high school level. And so if your district or school, if you're in a larger like K through 12 school, does not have an FLL team, then there are lots of opportunities for you as an FRC team to help start one. And so to start an FLL team, it requires two coaches and 2 to 10 student members. And what's great about starting First Lego League, in addition to prioritizing the youngest members of First and getting the youngest students interested in STEM. There's a lot of studies that show when you're introduced to STEM from an especially young age, you're more likely to continue it throughout your educational career. It's also a much lower financial entry. Part of this is because competitions are only 1 day, and because of the competition schedule that's managed by Georgia Tech, you pay one state fee at the beginning of the year, and then all competitions, including the regionals, super regionals, and state competitions, are covered by that fee. And so you can see here from the Georgia Tech website that fees end up being around $1,000 to $1,600 for a new team. But if you're a returning FLL team and already have the robot kits, then that ends up being only about $620. And so it's a lower financial barrier. And also there's lots of scholarships available for FLL teams provided by Georgia Tech, which I'll get into in a bit. Next, we have mentoring and starting FTC teams. And so again, these are the teams more focused towards the middle school and early high school level, although it can go up throughout high school. So FTC teams also have 2 members, but they can have up to 15 students. And because it's a more complex robot and game, instead of working with Lego pieces on a smaller field, you're working with metal and Rev Robotics supplies, there ends up being a higher cost barrier. And so starting an FTC team usually costs around $2,500 to $5,000. However, you can often reuse the around $1,000 in robot parts and around $1,000 in the competition field. Competition elements change every year, but the field stays the same, which is sometimes different for FLL. Also, once you get into FTC, there are opportunities to take advantage of the Novellus Georgia First aluminum partnership, in which teams can get aluminum at no cost, which I'll get into it later slides. And because of overlapping age groups, because FTC goes from grades 7 through 12 and FRC goes from grades 9 through 12, a lot of schools, high schools, are able to have both FTC and FRC divisions within the same school. You don't need to reach out to another middle school or another lower school within your district. You're able to have it all centralized by one school and by mentors who kind of know both groups in both games. And this allows for more direct support and pipeline into FRC. If you're being guided by a mentor on your FTC team when you're in 8th, 9th grade, who will then eventually lead you onto that same school's FRC team, often with the same students and in a same building, that can help kind of just add in some support as you're advancing in robot and game complexity. And so I was going to call on Emma, the CTSO president, to talk about her experience with this at Marist, because they have a similar FTC and FRC combination.
Yeah, so our pipeline is a little different because our school, I go to Marist, is 7 through 12. It's a really great opportunity to kind of build up students to get to that FRC level. So what we start with is FTC for 7th through 9th, and then we go to FRC for 10 through 12. It is a brand new system. Last year and the years before that, it was you could do FTC all throughout kind of middle school and high school. And then you had the option for FRC, but now it has just been limited to FTC stopping at 10th grade, or ninth grade, which I think is really beneficial and will help a lot with our kind of build up of members for FRC, which we had a relatively smaller team with around like 30-ish people, which compared to other people is a lot, and other teams it's very little. But it is definitely going to help us for the coming years.
Yeah, thank you so much, Emma. Um, And so, a quick thing before I'll go and talk about, I'm gonna go turn to Anika to talk about some of her experience in hosting competitions, is financial support for FRC teams wanting to, or any kind of groups wanting to start FTC or FLL teams. First off, let's talk about the Google grant, which is through Georgia First for FTC. And so this grant is open to both rookie and veteran teams. If you are awarded the grant, rookie teams are provided $2,600 per team, while veteran teams are provided $1,400 per team. And so when you have schools that, because there's up to 15 students per team, sometimes you'll have multiple teams. This grant is great because each team gets its own monetary stipend, even if you're reusing certain field elements or you're sharing supplies. So this is a really great way for multiple FTC teams to start up at the same time. And also, FLL teams transitioning into FTC may also apply for this grant. And so some criteria for this is that more than 50% of the team are middle school age students. And so this is where it is a little different. It's mostly aimed at those 7th and 8th graders instead of 9th through 12th graders who may be participating in FTC when they're also eligible for FRC. In addition, 50% of or more of the team meets some more criteria regarding school underrepresentation, low income, being in a Title I school, or being in a rural area. And then similarly, scholarships for FLL. Georgia Tech provides team scholarship programs through their kind of competition running. And so these are only available to rookie or inactive teams. So veteran teams are not able to be awarded these scholarships. However, again, there's a much lower cost barrier for FLL, especially when repeating years. It's usually only about $600. And so it's easier to fundraise than the kind of larger multi-thousand-dollar endeavors that starting an FTC team takes. And also only one grant per school awarded. So instead, if you have multiple FLL teams, you only are able to get one grant, but that is often able to cover those shared elements, such as your fees into entering the program, or like the Georgia Tech competition program, or your field elements, etc. Student volunteers is the another way that without running a team, your students can provide support for FTC and FLL and kind of continue that pipeline. And so to volunteer at first, the minimum age is 13 years old. And so a great opportunity for outreach for your FRC students are to have them volunteer at FTC or FLL events. And so available FLL roles for people ages 13 to 17 include assistant scorekeeper, field resetter, judge, a judge and queuer, robot game queuer, pit runner, referee, score runner, and timekeeper. When you turn 18, that's not included in this list because much more roles open up to you at that point. And FTC roles include crowd controller, DJ, field resetter, game announcer, load in or out crew, practice field attendant, and queuer. And so this can act as really good off-season recruitment as your students can discuss their involvement on FRC teams at FTC and FLL events or opening and closing ceremonies at those events. During the off season of FRC, it allows kind of more awareness of higher programs in FIRST and how these students should continue in their robotics careers and continue with FIRST and all the opportunities that come after participating in FTC or FLL. And so to kind of elaborate on how to provide support for FLL and FTC and encourage that influx of students being able to join FRC, I have Nika to talk about her experience.
Right. So my team is a little different because we don't get a lot of support from the school system, which can make it really hard for running FLL and FTC teams. But we've still found ways to support those teams, which have to be run independently for us, so that they can function. So a big one for FLL is we have like game boards that we provide to FLL teams as well as the Sprite Prime kits, because although we can't provide them with a build space or run the teams ourselves, we can provide them with a lot of support and the resources that they need to get over that hump to start a team. We also offer mentors from our FRC team to all those teams. And then for FTC, we do kind of the same thing. We have a little bit more of a direct role in FTC, so we can help a little bit with how they run the team and like directly work with their mentors, which helps a lot for them. And then again, providing mentors from FRC can help those teams a lot. And that really builds a pipeline where students can come up through FLL and then do FTC and come join your FRC team eventually.
Yeah. Emma, do you want to add on to this?
Yeah, so I'm kind of also on the same like playing field as Anika on this one. So Marist did not let us host or kind of make a FLL team with their budget for Montgomery Elementary, which was right down the road, and my former elementary school where I did FLL. So we had to do funding through like GoFundMe's, which is a really, really great way of getting money. And we know a lot of people in the community. So that really, really helped us. And then I know we were talking about hosting those FLL meets. Marist hosted its first FLL meet this past, I think, November, and we're planning on hosting one this year again. And so, like you said, we reached out to Georgia Tech Seismic, which is spelled CEISMC. And they kind of helped us with everything, gave us supplies. And we're actually meeting with them later this week for our next kind of like competition. But I would say they're really, really helpful for helping you set up anything FLL, FTC. Yeah, and I would say it is really important, especially for FRC students. It allowed us to get a bond with FLL students, and it really helped. I think a lot of them gained a lot of insight on robotics. A lot of them are doing coding. We even have someone who is doing APCS stuff as a fourth grader. And it's insane. He was really passionate. And yeah.
Yeah, I would just like kind of add on to that. If that is the like those are the benefits you can get of introducing the kind of opportunities of robotics to students at younger and younger ages, is that they can start building these skills earlier and then they can apply them. That student will be able to apply those APCS skills to robotics when he continues through FIRST and continues through all the different programs. And then I'm going to quickly touch before we hand it over to Shamik about intra-team sustainability, talking about environmental sustainability for teams and for FIRST as a program in general. And so obviously FIRST kind of goes with the pillars of reduce, reuse, repurpose, and recycle. And this can allow for team sustainability by following these through price reduction. For example, repurposing old parts per practice field elements can really save money and allow for teams to continue moving in a more economically efficient manner. Also, Georgia First offers opportunities for battery recycling, metal recycling, and a great way to kind of start on your team, start considering environmental sustainability is by reducing your carbon footprint at competitions. So, how you travel to competitions, where you stay, where you get meals as a team, etc. Those little small choices are actually things you can really talk about as a team and raise awareness for, and how to be a more sustainable team. And yeah, reduce that environmental consequence. And so awareness of these actions can allow your team to compete for the Team Sustainability Award. And so basically FIRST kind of has this overall program awareness of environmental sustainability. And in addition to making those financially and environmentally stable decisions, this can allow you to kind of grow as a team. Emma, do you want to keep talking about this?
Yeah, so I have some kind of examples of how we use this at Marist. So Marist does metal recycling, and really a great part of this is that companies will pay you by the pound to donate or give away recycle those materials. So metal and wood is also a really big thing. I don't know if you guys build your own field. Marist builds their own field out of wood parts, and after the season, those kind of get scrapped. And it's a really good way to get back money, which we actually put that money into FLL and FTC. And it's really great. And then the other thing is that isn't on here is recyclable PLA for 3D printing is also really big. All of our manatees that we hand out, like at competitions, they're all sustainable, biodegradable, and it's something that I touched on when I talked to judges about sustainability.
Yeah, those are some awesome examples. Thank you. And one specific example of this that you probably know of if you're involved with an FRC team is the Georgia First Novellus partnership. And so Novellus provides materials and manufacturing support to all PCH FRC teams and then all Georgia FTC teams. And so this includes providing recycled aluminum at no cost to teams. And so being able to have these this access to materials through this Novellus sponsorship, as well as then using this metal after you're finished with it to recycle it and possibly getting paid for doing so shows how this environmental sustainability and these partnerships with large organizations end up benefiting your team economically as well. And so this environmental sustainability also leads to financial sustainability for a team. Now I'm going to pass it over to Shaumik to talk about his experience with creating sustainable teams kind of from the inside out.
Actually, does Emma have any last remarks before we?
Oh yeah.
No, okay. So switching lenses here about sustainability. I'm talking specifically more about intra-team sustainability. So FRC specific knowledge is unique in the fact that though it may have broad applications outside of FRC, this knowledge is specific to the unique conditions of FRC, which are quite unique. I mean, it's robots slamming against each other, slamming against game pieces, elements. So it's really unique conditions of FRC. So this means that the conservation of FRC specific knowledge is really crucial for sustainable competitiveness and for overall intra-team sustainability. So for many teams, including my own, FRC specific knowledge is funneled and concentrated into a few key members, whether that be intentional or not. So like the graph, right? As you go down into the smaller stages, the smaller percentages, you'll have more and more knowledge concentrated. And now this may not be true with every team, but most teams usually suffer with this problem. So with a general unequal distribution of FRC specific knowledge amongst a team, it forms a sort of concentration gradient of knowledge where there are more members with less knowledge than members with more knowledge. Next slide, please. So this phenomenon can be isolated to two factors. There's an imbalance / lack of experience, and next slide, and a yearly graduating class. So next slide, please. So lack of experience. Experience is something that needs to be earned over time through consistent involvement during practices and competitions, which makes the lack of experience much harder to address. However, students and mentors can work on promoting engagement, especially for underclassmen in practices and at competitions, by ensuring that there's enough engaging work and opportunities to learn. Additionally, acting like a funnel for students who've previously been FLL or FTC, like how Celeste was talking about, allows for them to be more cumulative experience amongst the team by promoting students who already have previous experience with FIRST to join the team. Next slide, please. Similarly, a yearly graduating class is also a bit hard to address because a graduating class is pretty much outside of team control. However, there's much more that can be done in a fairly quick sense to decrease the impact of graduating students on a team compared to the lack of experience. So these include basically teaching down, so teaching students who may have less knowledge than you, promoting opportunities for learning and training, and sustaining a large library of knowledge with the countless resources for FRC. Next slide. So it's imperative for those without knowledge to train those, or those with knowledge to train those without. So essentially teaching down the pyramid of concentration of knowledge. The main students that should be training groups of students should be those who actually have high amounts of knowledge and should essentially train students on the knowledge side of whatever is being taught. So for instance, students that know like the mechanical side of FRC can go over like common physical hardware and materials used in FRC. Those who know the electrical side can talk about electrical theory or the components and wires used. Those who know the design / strategy side can go over design processes or go over top team designs or principles like keep it super simple or anything else that needs to be considered before designing a robot each year. So some students will pick up certain things quicker than others. So it's also imperative to promote an atmosphere of collaboration where leaders teach students, but students can also teach other students, and questions and double checking and just having an atmosphere where students shouldn't be afraid to ask questions or shouldn't be shamed or looked down upon for not having specific knowledge. Next slide. So It's also beneficial to take newer students to off-season competitions, like obviously grits, to allow them to gain competition experience. So one thing my team has done in terms of competition to allow almost all of our students in the stands, especially those who are new members, actually go into pit, but like obviously not overload the pits of other teams or my team, is limiting the amount of safety glasses available. So obviously you need safety glasses to go down in pit. So by making safety glasses a limited amount, new members are automatically limited on the number of them that can go down to the pits at a single time. So with competitions being so exciting, with so many different teams to talk to, so many matches to watch, so many different robots to look at, it's important to take advantage of this excitement and have students get engaged in competitions rather than just sitting in the stands and only cheering for when your team's on the field, but having them go down to pits and essentially experience what FIRST is all about, the different ways teams design a robot to achieve one singular task. So after passing down knowledge to new members, it's also important to actually create opportunities for students to apply this knowledge. Whether this be making a small practice bot or practicing CADing other teams' mechanisms, which is a great way to learn for CAD and design mechanical, or simulating code, creating electrical boards, or doing a mock kickoff, or more, it's important to actually foster application of knowledge that's being taught down by a higher classmen or those with higher knowledge to those without as one of the best ways to learn. So personally for my team, Team 8866, we start with simple projects in the beginning of the off season for our different departments before we delve into our mock kickoff/mock competition season, where teams this year of 4 work on CADing, building, and coding a robot to achieve various objectives in a game/challenge we create. So this year we're having students create a robot that can shoot a 6-inch ball into a goal. So this year we're also having these new members be paired with a few experienced members. So these experienced members can lead each team to design and build a robot that can shoot 6-inch balls to our goal, like I said. However, these aren't our most experienced members. Because our most experienced members spent the August and the beginning of September training everyone they could in groups and training those that would serve as a higher role with more knowledge than newer members, they're able to instead work on applying their knowledge to something different. So in this case, a secondary robot that can play this year's game. So this allows us to not only engage our most experienced members, but also engage and teach our younger members and those that still have a couple more years in FIRST in them. So obviously each team's budget and time differs. So it's really important to find the best way to engage new and experienced members in order to cement the knowledge that's been passed down by those who actually have knowledge. Additionally, it's also crucial to engage students during the on-season, no matter how busy the team gets. The number one goal of FIRST is A, to have fun, but B, to learn, right? No matter how busy your team might be during a competition season, whether you guys are on a crunch, make sure to involve students into either your design process, your build process, your testing process, all your process. New members should be introduced and be guided along. They really shouldn't be left alone so that they can just do whatever they want, because that creates an issue of students being not motivated or just being on their phones, playing games during practices or anything when you don't create the right opportunities for them. You can't blame the students if they're not engaged without the right opportunities to provide them. So new members during the on-season should be dispersed across however teams organizes different departments. So in my case, we do departments. Obviously, other teams do sub-teams and stuff like that. But the main goal is to keep these new members engaged. To help with engaging new members, it may be helpful to create an opportunity for many students to participate at once. So like a prototyping or testing department, but our prototyping and testing department where students essentially disperse into groups to test prototypes. So for this past on season for Reefscape, we had almost 90 members and around 40 of them were new. So we were able to obviously split them up into other departments, but a lot of them we were able to concentrate into a testing design process where they came up with ideas, they then laser cut or CNC'd out wood, they assembled it, and then they were able to wire it, and then they tested it. And not only did this give them something to actually be engaged in and apply the knowledge they already learned, but it also, they learned from either the mock kickoff or the mock competition season or from the previous projects that we taught them, but it also gives the team more data about the characteristics of the game pieces. So you not only have information, but you keep your team engaged and sustainable. Next slide, please. So now that you've taught and engaged your new members in on season, you actually know where to find the knowledge to, actually teach these children. So there's a lot of resources and knowledges for a lot of things. So I listed off a couple sub themes. So like for design, the main thing is Chief Delphi. Chief Delphi is basically an open forum where anyone can discuss, talk, or post about practically anything related to first. And there's also a lot of non-first related stuff that gets its own subsection. But one specific thing is called Open Alliance. Open Alliance is basically a program where teams can write a build blog. This build blog essentially dictates from kickoff to all the way to the end of the competition season about their CAD, their code, what their criteria is for the robot, and how they're going about building and creating. Another thing for design is a website called FRCdesign.org. FRCdesign.org is Onshape specific, so keep in mind whichever team or whatever your team uses as a software program. But FRC Design is really good in the fact that it's able to teach you from basically zero to almost CADing an entire robot by yourself. Additionally, a lot of teams may not know this, but there's a lot of Discord servers that are associated with robotics. So one of them is called Davis Design Server, and you can find that link for there in Chief Delphi. But that's also a good place to just ask quick questions. And the key thing is, unlike Chief Delphi, which is like an online messaging forum, with a Discord, people are a lot more active and a lot more likely to respond. So we used this Discord server a lot this year, right? If we had any quick questions or we wanted to learn something, a lot of teams post their CAD or the processes there. It's a lot to learn. Additionally, CAD release threads where you basically can just, a lot of teams, like recently, a couple of days ago, Team 254, they posted basically a run through of all their CAD and they just explain different parts. A lot of teams, usually after Worlds, release their CAD and explain it. Open Alliance teams also usually explain their CAD and release it. And then technical binders. Technical binders are for teams. Usually you find most of them for teams that don't want to release their CAD, but it details like everything, every specific subsystem and anything about the robot. And you can always ask more questions in Chief Delphi to learn more about the robots. For electrical, it's basically the same resources. Two other Discord servers is Jimmy's electrical server and FRC Unofficial. So these two are also really active and you can basically ask a question and you'll get a response in like 5 minutes. So it's really good if you want to ask questions and learn, which for me, at least, that's how I learned a lot, by just asking questions, getting explained, asking more clarified questions. Mechanical is the same thing. You just look at CADs on Chief Delphi. Programming, though I'm not too experienced with it, what we found works best is asking for help on FRC Unofficial Discord server, a Discord server called Lycia's programming server. WPI lib documentation does help, especially if you're trying to get new members started up. So for example, for a mock kickoff this year, they'll be using West Coast Drive or Tank Drive. So we've given them different documentation for them to actually learn. And then obviously there's other specific libraries that you can use like YAGSL.
If I could add on to that for a second, just about programming.
Yeah, go for it.
Another really good option, like kind of opportunity for is GitHubs. Like lots of teams will post their code, such as Mechanical Advantage will post their GitHub code after seasons are done. And so being able to look at their code and see what's been written is very helpful for programming. And then making sure that you're doing the same thing like within your team of posting your GitHub after each season so that new members who are learning programming can go back and look through your code, see what worked and what didn't. That's always one of our like first things in programming for new members is just read through the entire GitHub, see what you do or don't understand. But kind of on this opportunities for other like resources, a lot of teams post their own GitHubs that you can look at.
Yeah, exactly. So I failed to mention that, but yeah, a lot of teams post that. We use that a lot this year. And I mean, it's important to understand that when you're going through all these, you shouldn't copy paste, but it's fine if you look through it, you understand it, and then you use whatever knowledge or whatever code or whatever CAD you've learned. And for me specifically, there's a really good library for containing all of this, all these links, right? It's called Links Library of Knowledge, LLK. Yep, exactly. Link Library of Knowledge. So it's basically a library that just, a GitHub library that just compiles all links for anything, programming, design, build, electrical strategy, business, white papers, and so much more. So if you need a place to actually like go and find knowledge, or if you're like, I need to figure out how to teach my students electrical. I can go to Link's Library of Knowledge, go to the electrical manual, and I see that Citrus Circuits has posted about their slides for it. And I can take those slides, adapt them to however I want them, and then teach my students. So it's really good to be able to know where you can actually find information. And it's also good to point to students to find information. Obviously, if you're a senior like I am, it's important that you can't, it's important you establish you can't be there all the time, especially when you graduate. So giving them places where they can look for answers before they ask you is also a good skill that you can teach them. But overall, um, intra-team sustainability is really important, and it's also really important that no matter how much you do, it's up to the students to take initiative to learn and to apply that knowledge. But it's also really important that you actually foster that by initiating teaching the students, giving them opportunities to learn, and integrating them into your entire team during your on and off season. But yeah, that's basically everything for me. Anything you guys want to add?
I think you did a great job. So we have about 10 minutes left if anyone else has any questions or if anyone else on the panel has anything to add. But yeah, I would totally agree. I think that sustainability is so important, both like within your own team and for FIRST as a whole. There's a lot of overlaps in how to kind of keep that going. But yeah, if there are any questions, you can put them in the chat or in the Q&As, and we will get to them. And if not, we can finish early. Cool. I don't think we have any questions coming through, so I think we'll go.
Yeah.
Good to finish the webinar early? Yeah, if you have any other questions, or if your students end up having any questions about how to kind of continue the sustainability in their team, feel free to email us or any of the CTSOs, really.
Yeah. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you so much for attending. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.